Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really critical period in history that honestly doesn't get talked about enough. We're looking at the incredible transformation of a young military cadet into the architect of an entire nation. So, let's go back in time. The year is 1896. We're in a city called Manastir, which is in modern-day North Macedonia. It was right here, over just 3 incredibly important years, that a young cadet named Mustafa Kemal would create the mental blueprint that would one day build the Republic of Turkey. Now, to really get the man, you have to understand the world he was dropped into. So this first part is all about the setting. The crucible where his revolutionary mind was really forged. Manastir was not just some sleepy town, it was the absolute nerve center of a dying empire. I mean, you could practically feel the ground shifting beneath your feet. It was a true political laboratory, just buzzing with spies, revolutionaries, and brand new, frankly, dangerous ideas. I mean, just look at this. It was a total pressure cooker. The Ottoman Empire was falling apart from the inside. You had rival nationalist groups battling it out in the hills for control. On top of that, the big European powers were all there pushing their own agendas. And right into this tinderbox walks Mustafa Kemal. He was sent there to learn about war, but what he was about to get was a masterclass in revolution. And this is the moment that spark really ignites. He saw with his own eyes that the empire's problems weren't just a military thing. He started to realize that the real battles of the future, they weren't just going to be fought with cannons, but with ideas. So you might be asking, how did this transformation actually happen? Well, it all started when his official, government-approved education slammed right into a forbidden world of knowledge. And that would change him forever. On the one hand, he was the perfect student. Seriously, he was brilliant at his official studies, especially math. That just came naturally to him. But his real passion, the fire that was lighting up his mind, was being fueled in a secret, parallel education, one that was all about liberty, nationhood, and revolution. And hey, just a quick reminder for you all, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications. The information we're covering here is compiled from open sources. Thank you so much. This is where his education really goes underground. It's his friend, Omer Naji, who completely opens his eyes to the power of literature and speech. He starts devouring the works of nationalist writers like Nama Kemal, who introduced him to this modern idea of Vatan, or homeland. Not just the property of a sultan, but a nation of people with a shared destiny. And get this, to read Western thinkers, he actually snuck into a French school just to read the Enlightenment philosophers in their original language. You know, his passion for words became so powerful that he later admitted his oratory instructor literally had to pull him back towards a military career. He said that otherwise he might have just become a poet instead. He was starting to see that words, the ability to inspire people, to persuade them, to lead them, were absolutely essential weapons for the future he was starting to dream of. And all this led to a massive shift in how he saw himself. He wasn't just a soldier in training anymore. He was becoming an intellectual warrior, understanding that a single powerful idea could be more decisive than an entire battery of cannons. This was a huge change. He was no longer just training to defend a crumbling empire. He was now collecting the intellectual tools he would need to build and inspire a brand new nation right from its ashes. And just look at how fast this all happened. We're talking about a span of only 3 years. He went from being a disciplined cadet obsessed with tactics to a young intellectual who was blending military strategy with revolutionary political philosophy. His whole way of seeing the world was completely rebuilt. So this all builds up to the single most important outcome of his time in Manastir, the creation of a mental blueprint for a country that didn't even exist yet. And he wasn't just, borrowing ideas here and there. He was a synthesizer. He was taking the harsh lessons of a dying empire, the fire of Turkish poetry, and the logic of Western philosophy, and he was fusing them all into something totally new. I think his true genius was in combining these 3 very different pillars. First, you have the hard-nosed realism he learned right there on the streets of Manastir, seeing what worked and, more importantly, what didn't in a failing empire. Second, the passionate soul of Turkish patriotic poetry, which gave him the language of national identity. And third, the logical framework of the European Enlightenment, which gave him the principles of liberty, reason, and the modern nation-state. So when he finally walked out of that military academy in 1899, he wasn't just another junior officer. He was something much, much more than that, something way more dangerous to the old world order.
He left with more than just a diploma and a uniform. As the source material so perfectly puts it, he was carrying the intellectual foundation, the complete mental map for the salvation of an entire people.
The years of quiet study and secret reading in Manastir were finally over. But the real work, the work of building a new world, of turning that revolutionary blueprint into an actual nation, well, that was just beginning. And that kinda leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We always focus on the big battles and the major political events, but how much of history is actually forged, not in the clash of armies, but in the quiet collision of ideas inside a single, focused mind?